Eric here, coming to you right at the moment of the opposition of Mars and Eris. Mars being in Libra, Eris being in Aries, and the two are exactly aligned with the lunar nodes, the nodes of the moon, which are personal points, and they are also intersections between the individual and the collective. So when there's an event that takes place on or in aspect to the lunar nodes, we have an indication of whether and to some extent how there's going to be a kind of amplification into the into public consciousness. And right now, of course, public consciousness is completely plugged in. Everyone is strung together by this digital network that has slowly ensconced and entwined our lives over the past 20 years while we were busy checking our email and doing other fun things, gaming and so forth. And now we are completely dependent upon this digital network that is not our feet. It is not our ability to raise chickens and have eggs in the morning. It's a different thing. And the reason I'm speaking to you today partly is this event, but which is an astronomical event, but then also there is the FEMA communications drill that is said to be taking place today at 2:20 p.m., approximately 2:20 p.m., Wednesday, October 4th. St. Francis Day, by the way. My personal patron saint. When I update the websites with this, I will also add my traditional fresco of St. Francis of Assisi, patron of critters, of the environment, and of Italy, and I think also the Catania province of Sicily, which is where some of my people come from. Okay, so my thoughts are that, well, let's consider the chart first for the astronomical event, which is the opposition of Mars and Eris. And Eris is the slow mover in this one, obviously, with an orbit of about 551 years. It takes more than 5 centuries to go around the sun, and it is therefore the most important thing added to astrology and astronomy, but astronomers don't care that much, honestly. Added to astronomy in the 21st century, because it forced a kind of a conceptual reorganization of the solar system, and Pluto became 135340 Pluto rather than just planet Pluto. And Eris is the sigil of the digital age. The chaos and discord implied in Eris is the chaos and discord of digital conditions. Correspondingly, it is also the quest for wholeness and sanity within those conditions. So, in that sense, Eris is the needle, and then it is how we thread the needle, and so we have both sides of that. That conversation, by the way, of wholeness, the quest for wholeness and healing, is from Amanda Beatriz a few weeks ago on Planet Waves FM. I will link to that. It is a really wonderful conversation for those of you who appreciate working with these archetypes as personal, psychological, and historical kind of processes and markers. Okay, so we have that whole seeking, and we have that being dragged into this fragmentation of the digital world, the splitting up of self and the splitting up of selves and of communities, and this thing that's kind of left us all initially at the end of the wire, but now just kind of walking around with our devices thinking that we really are connected with the world in some personal way. But what it's really done is it's made us all broadcasters and publicists. at the other end, and that's on the north node. That is on the Dharma end of the nodal axis. That's on the one that is the tug in the direction of what needs to be. A simplistic view of the nodes is that one represents Dharma, that is to say the gradual alignment with the underlying truth of things, and then the south node of the moon, where Mars is hanging out in Libra, has a kind of a karmic quality, Libra being partly ruled by Saturn, and notably an eclipse is coming. So there are factors that amplify this aspect pattern. The fact that it's on the nodes is one of them. The fact that it's on the nodes with the sun in Libra means that there's going to be a solar eclipse. That takes place on the 14th. It's, I believe, an annular solar eclipse. I've got that one floating around here. No, I've got it in my notes as a partial solar eclipse on October 14th at 1:55 p.m. Now, there are going to be different times if you go. That's the time of the new moon, so the eclipse time varies by location, and you can look up that eclipse in the U.S. Geological Survey eclipse, and it is visible from the United States, from part of the, obviously not all of it. There's a path of that an eclipse has, and this one appears to make a swath going through. It looks to me like someone named Sophie Siemens has sent in this one, and this is being listed as an annular. It's similar. Annular is a more exact alignment, but let's not get caught in those technicalities. It is an eclipse. Anyway, it is visible from the United States, and it seems to be making a swath across the southwest. It goes kind of from the northwest diagonally to Texas. SOPHIE. Let's just check that first email. Yep. Okay, so these sources listed as an annular, and it makes a swath going from essentially Oregon down through San Antonio. So that's an interesting eclipse path. And in the United States, there's only been a few of eclipses, and a really important one was what was called the Great American Eclipse. I've lost track of what year that is. Was 2017. Sorry if I'm doing some research on the fly here. March 16th, let's go more, 2017. All right, it was a solar eclipse of August 21st, 2017 that cast a shadow from sea to shining sea, entering the American continent in Oregon and leaving the American continent somewhere in the Carolinas. And this, of course, was representative of the times we're living in now. This was, it symbolically cut a shadow across the country. I realize a shadow is just a shadow, but we're talking symbolism. And then leading into and during the Trump administration, we were, as a nation, split in half more than ever. And the United States has always been a little split in half by various factors, whether we're talking about the Civil War or the Kennedy versus Nixon election. But we are often not a house a house divided, as Lincoln said. And speaking of the House, look what's going on, what chaos is going on in the House of Representatives. So what is this all about? And let's get into the digital event today. Today at 2:20, there's going to be, they say, a digital event, which is going to be a test of this national system that links together all of the cell phones in the country, and then in parallel, that will interrupt the cable networks and radio networks and broadcast the same message on the radio. And the implication here is that anyone, anywhere near any media, public media, radio, TV, or their cell phone is going to be notified simultaneously of whatever. Today, they say it is of a test. And my question is, what event could possibly require informing the entire United States, more than 300 million people in 50 states and numerous territories, of any one thing? What would that be? Generally, emergencies are all local. We think that they're in some way, they have impact outside of a region, right? They either take place in a town or they take place in a region. And when they exceed a region, which is generally not true, it's something like a forest fire where the smoke goes somewhere, or a nuclear meltdown. But even a nuclear meltdown at first is still regional. And I can't imagine that if there's some kind of a nuclear event, meaning at a commercial reactor, say, for example, in New Mexico, they're going to tell us about it in New Jersey. What's the point? So this leads to the question of what is a new kind of emergency? What is something that would need to tell us to all do something at the same time? If we rule out all the regional emergencies and the local emergencies and things like a quote unquote real pandemic, those are still local events. You don't need to get everyone's attention at the same time. The mythology of quote pandemics unquote has changed over time to there previously being things that were brewing in the population for 10 years and then suddenly reared their early head. It's all a bunch of mythology. But now they're saying, now the possibility is, we saw in 2020, they claim to go from zero to total global involvement in 12 weeks. You may think, of course, a disease can spread that fast. No. And all of their transmission studies fail. When you look for any study showing any transmission of any communicable disease, you find that either it's not there or it proves the opposite. I challenge you to provide for me, if you feel like doing this, a study demonstrating that there is actual transmission of something like the flu. I don't need an anecdotal report of these people arrived on this island and then everyone got the measles. I don't mean that. I mean a scientific study showing that this can be made to happen and documented. They almost all prove that it's impossible. The Rosenau studies and various others. So that rules out that. That rules out like a quote-unquote pandemic. Well, we're left with really only a few things. We're left with the thing that I've been kind of gently tapping the spoons about, which is an alien invasion. Now, Charlie LeMay, one of the Planet Waves artists of many years standing, a former teacher of photography at St. Paul's in New Hampshire, and also an artist of some renown, said, "Come on, check out the possibility that's for the alien invasion that's coming." And we all know this is a false flag invasion. And the number of articles prepping us for a false flag invasion has been rising almost exponentially this year. Going back to the balloon incident around the time of the East Palestine train wreck, that was earlier this year, barely 6 months ago. Okay, what other kind of emergency could there be that could affect the entire country? Well, we're all held together by one currency. Oh, that's interesting. We are part of a global computer network. The computer network doesn't really have national boundaries. That's the whole thing with the computer network, is that it is a globalist network, and that is why there are no longer any meaningful national boundaries. And you might say, well, when I went to Thailand, some very serious-looking people checked my passport, and there were men with machine guns right there. Okay, fine. What I'm saying is that that's the pretense of national boundaries. What's really going on is some schmageggies in Davos, Switzerland, or Geneva can send out a memo, and then in a matter of days, everyone is told to stay home. That memo should not come from Davos or Geneva. No one should be telling the Centers for Disease Control of an autonomous country, nuclear armed and everything, that we should be shutting down because everyone might catch cold. Shut the economy because you might catch cold. So that's the problem of the globalist nature of the internet. It has dissolved the national boundaries that emerged in the second half of the second millennium, like from 1500 to 2000, was a phase of first shoring up and building national boundaries, and then in the 20th century, World War I, World War II, etc., these national boundaries start to melt, and then by 2000, they're more or less gone. So our list of things that this system could be used for now seems to be 2 items. 1, false flag alien invasion. 2, currency emergency. What the hell kind of currency emergency could be going on? So I won't dwell on this too much. It's not really my area of expertise, though I would caution you that almost all of the presenters that you will see speaking about currency-related matters are speculating. So it's a choice of which speculator you're going to listen to, and most of them are spreading fear. The problem with the digital environment is that anyone can pick up their AK-47 or their microphone or whatever it is and start to spray their message all over the planet. So that makes chaos, and chaos in the true fashion of Eris and Aries is the nature of the digital age. And then some of us are waking up to the need to seek a holistic awareness, to stitch ourselves back together, to glue ourselves or melt ourselves and come out as whole people, to continue staying awake and to continue making art in the middle of all of this fragmentation. So to sum up, I consider today to be a special day in that there is this communications drill. And it's not merely that it's Mars opposite Eris on the lunar nodes, or that with an eclipse coming in 10 days, an eclipse that crosses the United States and also meets in San Antonio with another eclipse that takes place on April 8th, 2024, that basically goes from the northeast down to San Antonio. And this kind of eclipse meme that has been sent to me this morning by Sophie shows that the Uvalade, Uval, the scene of a mass shooting of some kind. I've fallen out of favor with following those, but it's right inside the place where those eclipses cross. That seems to be a fact. And I don't doubt that these seeming mass shootings are orchestrated, but it took me about 15 years of observing them to ask the question, what do these things all have in common? So anyway, we're living in this digital age where there is no certainty. This is the real fearful factor, that there's no certainty, and the things that people grasp onto for certainty are themselves very uncertain. They're just basically debris floating around from what has kind of fallen off the shelves in this marketplace of intellectual chaos that we are in. And so at the time now when we need community the most, we need one another the most people have been conditioned out of their communication skills, their social skills, and their ability to trust one another, their ability to conduct commerce off the internet. So these are very important things, to be able to communicate, to be able to have social skills, which are not the same thing, but they're closely related, the ability to trust, and the ability to conduct commerce with one another. And so whatever it is that we are looking at, it is entering an environment where people are in a severely weakened state. And that starts to sound like trust and communication are luxuries compared to those who are struggling to feed 6 people, struggling to pay the electric bill, to keep the power on, to keep the heat and the lights and the internet on. Massive dependencies have been created, and many people are right at the edge of these things. It's not like 1970, where it might take 4 months for the electric bill to get turned off, the electric power or plumbing. They'll just come right out and do it. So I guess the upshot of what I'm saying here is we need to stay on the human realm in the midst of this seemingly initiatory, on the day of this seemingly initiatory communications drill that is being conducted. The article about this I published it last Thursday night. That was one whole week ago, a little bit less. It's called Advertisement for Grief. There is a reading of the chart and the chart itself on that. So I'm going to list that from this current Substack page. I'll be cross-posting this to both of my Substacks, so please forgive me if you get it twice. And I'll be back with any luck whatsoever tomorrow night with a new article Thursday night, with a new article, new horoscope already written, and a new edition of STARCAST. Planet Waves FM is off this week. I'm doing short updates like this and others on my Substacks, also at starcast.fm. And then available wherever you, quote unquote, wherever your favorite podcasting platform, whatever that hokey line that they say on MSNBC. Please do what you can to support our programming. As you can tell, we're doing all kinds of great stuff. I am merely the front person. There are a lot of people behind me making this happen. Dia, Iva, Elijah, my beloved proofreaders, Allison and Jessica, various people on the accounting team, and others that keep this watch ticking. Happy St. Francis Day. Lots of love to you wherever you are in the world, in the future, or in your state of mind. Bye for now.